Just give a few more moments. Good morning to everybody who's joined us already, but do have 28 people registered, so I'd like to give people a chance to join us when we get going. I'm looking at clouds outside the window. I was lucky enough to go to my cousin's apartment in Spain over the weekend, and it was 23 degrees, and it was so lovely to see some sunshine.
Don't want to come back to this then, do you?
No, felt very, very lucky. Very.
That was
with
nice.
Everything going on in the world, you almost feel guilty of having a nice time, but.
Whereabouts in Spain?
Alicante. So quite a quick flight, 2-hour flight, and easy to get to. 5 minutes walk to the beach. Beautiful, beautiful beach. Beautiful sand, and there were people playing volleyball and people doing exercises on the beach, children playing, and it just felt really nice.
A bit normal, isn't it?
Yeah, it was, yeah.
Oh, how lovely. Do like Spain.
Morning, Liam.
Good morning. How are you?
Yeah, we're fine. Thank you so much for joining us.
That's a pleasure to be here.
We'll let you take the last slot, okay? So it gives you a
few minutes. Thank you.
We're just going to give a few more minutes just to let people come through, and then
absolutely fine.
We'll get going, okay?
Lovely.
It probably told you I am recording the session, so yeah.
No problem at all.
Okay, all right.
It looks like today you could have brought the sun back with you, Karen.
No, I'm sorry. I'm just saying it was so nice just to have a coffee and just sort of watch. I like people watching. But trouble is, there's all these body beautifuls over there. Goodness me, I just oh dear. But anyway, I think we'll get going. If people join us, we'll let them in. But thank you. Oh, there's somebody else coming. I've got to multitask. Sorry, I'm on my own. Thank you to everybody to join us today, and welcome to everybody, especially to our guests, Lynn Griffin and Ashley Jones and Liam Dutton. On the programme, Liam was going to be first to go, but because he's got a little bit of COVID going on, we're going to let him have the last slot. So before we let people take the floor, so to speak, just a couple of notices. I just really, really want to let you know, please, if you haven't done already, the nominations for the Cairns Support West Awards are shortly going to be closing. So the closing date is the 18th. So if you haven't already got your nominations in, it's a really, really worthwhile exercise. And it's a fantastic way to say thank you to your staff. A date for your diaries, the 7th of June, we've got the conference, which is being held at Ashton Gate. Again, you can register online. And for those people I've not had the opportunity of meeting myself, hello and welcome. And I deal with Workforce Development Fund and the Data Security Protection Toolkit, which is so relevant for this session particularly. But I'm going to stop talking, and I'm going to hand you straight over now to, I'm going to ask if you could all go on mute so that if you do get a phone call, but I'm going to hand you straight over to our first presenter, Lynn. Lynn Griffin has kindly come to talk to us about, and she's going to tell you how to spot a scam. So Lynn, over to you. Thank you.
Thank you. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Yes, I have a combined job between North Somerset Trading Standards and Age UK, and the two came together for a short-term 6-month contract 6 years ago, nearly 7 years ago now, and we're still going. Involved in visiting people at home who have been scammed, giving talks, working with PCSOs, all that type of thing. And I just said to Karen, I think the worrying thing about scams at the moment is that all the scams that were rife prior to pandemic and in the 6-7 years that I've been doing this job, they're all still the same. There are some new ones, but they're still the common ones, which I'm going to hear groans probably when I say what they are. Scams have grown over the 2 years now of the pandemic by over 40%. And we're seeing people lose huge amounts of money and also just small sums, the effect of which is the same, regardless of the amount of money that people lose, the effect on themselves is the same, which I'll come back to in a moment. And the fastest growing scam at the moment appears to be romance scams, particularly through the pandemic, where people were at home on their own, lonely, isolated, and possibly the only company they had was either Facebook or Zoom or dating websites. So we've seen a huge explosion really of those sorts of scams. But I thought, first of all, I would go through the most common ones that I see when I'm visiting mostly elderly, not all elderly people, but mostly older people at home. There are two. I try to explain to my ladies and gents that people like BT and TalkTalk will very, very rarely ring you. But if BT and TalkTalk do call, the only advice is for them to hang up. The problem is these people are trying to get personal details from you. They are pressure selling or pressurizing you into doing things. Some of the bank scams regarding fraudulent staff, which I'll come back to, they very strongly advise people not to tell anyone what is going down, that it's a secret. So there is a lot of pressure. If it sounds too good to be true, it certainly is. And it is just so difficult. BT and TalkTalk usually say to the person that there's a problem either with their router or their computer. They ask for personal details. They would like access to your computer so that they can put the problem right. And of course, once they have access to your computer, they can do really whatever they like. It's really, really difficult. They also will load viruses onto your computer. I have a gentleman at the moment who is into his 90s. He was scammed via the Microsoft scam. He was rung by these people who were very chatty. As he said to me, they were so nice on the phone, Lynn, that I just felt I had to do what they asked me to do. And he did. And the strange thing is he's done it 4 times since. And he is pretty with it, highly educated, makes no difference, pretty well off, makes no difference. And they came onto his computer. They left a nice virus as a present, which did all sorts of dreadful things to his computer. They parted him from nearly £30,000 worth of money in his bank account, which has been paid back by the bank. In the end, he had his computer, his laptop just wouldn't work. So that cost him nearly £300 at a computer shop to put it right. Gave him all the information he needed not to pick the call up. He recognized the number, allow his answer phone to take the call, because 9 times out of 10, the scammers won't leave you a message. And he did that for a little while and then just answered the call again and did the whole thing all over again. He didn't lose money this time, but his computer again was completely messed up. Had to go to the computer shop again, £100 to put it right. This has happened 4 times now. He's not well enough at the moment for me to visit because his age, he's had a fall, but also being scammed like that, it's almost like being burgled. They've come into your home, haven't they? If they've been on your computer, you can see them work in your computer. It violates your personal space. It affects eating, it affects sleeping, it affects depression. It is quite a depressing thing, and it's not a 5-minute thing. That will continue on for quite some time, affecting him. So Microsoft, BT and TalkTalk are definitely ones to avoid. Just the advice is, please put the phone down. Don't use a whistle on the phone, please, and don't swear and carry on at them, because they will just become even more aggressive. One that we've seen also a huge increase in at the moment is white goods insurance. This is insurance for your freezer, fridge, all that type of thing, washing machine. Very cleverly done. Always £199.99 for 12 months insurance. They ring up, you can't get a word in edgeways. They give the impression that you have insured with them previously, and that they are only ringing to confirm that your card number from last time is correct. And before you know what's happened, you've given them the card number so that they can confirm, and £199 has gone from your bank. Now, I saw a woman recently, she was late 80s, early onset dementia, on her own, no family. Well, she had family, but no family. And she'd bought 21 insurances at £199.99. And in anyone's thoughts, that is a lot of money. Now, we've managed to get most of it back for her, because it was pressure selling, but it is so easy to get caught. And the other one that works in almost the same way is they're selling call blockers, which they deliver to the house in a nice little cardboard box, which 9 times out of 10 doesn't work. It costs £199 per annum, and they are, to use the technical term, mostly useless. There are telephones out there that you can buy, people can buy, not usually allowed to recommend anything, but trading standards will fit free of charge for a year a true call phone, which will only accept the calls that we allow it to accept. But you can actually buy one yourself, and they do stop a lot of calls. We're also back to things like telephone preferencing service, silent call guard, 2 companies you can ring to register your number with, and that registration lasts 12 months. It will stop some, but most certainly it won't stop all of them. I'm sure you're all going to groan now. Amazon, we're all getting them at the moment. I think I've taken in the last 4 weeks about 40 calls just about Amazon. It's either £79.99 tied up with your Amazon Prime, your account has been got at, etc., etc. Or someone is trying to buy the brand new, whatever number iPhone we're on at the moment this week, for something like £700 or £800. And you've got to do this, this and that, and please can I have some personal details, and can you press 1? And people are being panicked by it, ringing Amazon, who of course don't want to know. One lady rang me and said, I've had a phone call from Amazon telling me I'm spending too much, can they have my card details? And explained gently that Amazon would certainly never complain that you were spending too much money with them. Luckily, she didn't give her details, but it is so easy to get caught. One of the most aggressive, and one which we're seeing again, is HMRC, the tax office. It started off as a scam online where they sent you an email telling you, aren't you a lucky person? You've got a tax rebate of just under £300. It wasn't any more than that, because they felt people would become suspicious. I think you had to send between £10 and £20 in order to get your rebate. You sent your money and of course you don't get your rebate. But now they have changed their tactics. They are ringing people on the phone. And prior to the pandemic, I had a friend, well, I still got a friend, but then she worked at that time for one of the high street banks in the village where I live. She had done all the fraud training with the bank. She had done the fraud training with trading standards. And she rang me up from her mobile and said, Lynn, I'm in trouble. I've just had a phone call from the tax office saying I owe £10,000. And I explained that she didn't. She said they were very pressuring with me. They wanted to know if I'd got my card, and if I paid it now, it would be fine. And he spoke very loudly on the phone, almost shouting at me. And I said, look, do 1471, get the number off your landline phone and come up. So up she came. Now, 9 times out of 10, when you ring these numbers back, as you may have found out, you can't get through. They can only make outgoing, they can't receive incoming calls. So I rang, didn't expect to get an answer, but a gentleman, well, I say gentleman, a person answered and said, HMRC, good afternoon, how can I help you? Just for a moment, I actually thought it might be genuine. So I said that I was her and I was sorry they'd rung me and I'd panicked, etc., etc. He said, not a problem, Mrs. Thing. He said, if you've just got your card, we can sort it out now. So I said, yes, I've got my card. So he said, just a few details. I said, that's fine. He said, can I have your address, please? I said, yes. So I gave him an address that I lived in years and years ago. He wanted my date of birth. So I gave him my date of birth. So I'm 27, but not wearing terribly well at the moment. 1 or 2 things like that. And he said, that's the details. He said, have you got your card? I said, yes, I've got my card. And so he nagged on a bit then. He told me that the reason for the urgency was because they'd been trying to contact me by all sorts of ways. They'd emailed me, they'd sent me a letter, all these things I hadn't responded to. And because of that, they'd had to freeze my bank account, they'd invalidated my passport, and they were coming to collect my new car. The bailiffs would be here any minute. Now, the scary thing is that my friend had taken a delivery of a brand new car 3 days previously. So I said, okay. So he said, have you got your card? I said, yeah, I've got my card. I said, can I just double check one thing with you, because it's worrying that my tax is taken at source. Can we just double check that you've got the right employer? Well, he said, I don't have this information. He said, that's with another department, but if you've got your card, he said, we can settle it now. He said, just give me the card number and we'll take the 10,000 and it's all sorted. So I said, well, before we go any further, I want to confirm with you who I work for. He said, yes, that's fine. So I said, well, actually, I'm employed by North Somerset Trading Standards. And it went very quiet and we've not heard from him since. But the point is, not that we got one over on him, if you like, but how scary it was, how carefully it was set out. The script that they worked to was aimed at my friend. They had details about her that they shouldn't have had. Now, had she not had anyone to ask, had she been on her own, had she completely panicked, which she did, she would have lost £10,000, and they may well have come back for more. Since then, and it's just over 2 years now, it still worries her that she was so quick to fall for it. She had to go and see her GP. She got depressed. They put her on antidepressants, which she's still taking. She lost weight. It has all sorts of effects on people. It's really, really foul. It's just not a good thing. But to go back to romance scams, they are really cruel because people are lonely. They want someone to talk to. They're after money. They're after personal details. They pressurize you. We have a gentleman who lives in Weston, who's in his 80s, bless him, who met a Kenyan lady online, 38, absolutely beautiful. It wasn't her, was it? She'd taken someone else's physical attributes and put them on Skype, which is how he met her, by chatting to her through Skype. He sent her 4 lots of airfare for her to come over. He loved her to bits, and apparently she loved him too. By the time we were advised by the bank that he banked with, he had no money left in his account and he had no food left in his cupboard. My first visit with him was to the food bank to fill his cupboards up. We talked it all through. And he was absolutely adamant that it was genuine. There was just no telling him or explaining or getting him to understand that this woman technically didn't exist. And then she said, you're going to get a phone call from an uncle who lives in Sri Lanka. And the uncle rang and said he wanted to send money via my client to his niece in Kenya. So he was going to send my client money to be changed into sterling or euros and sent to her. And that would have been money laundering. So we warned him off. Whether he did it or not, he never ever owned up to me. Now I'm still in touch with him 4 years later. He's still doubtful that I was right and that she didn't exist. Towards the end, he got information from her that she was actually coming. She'd come into money and she was going to repay him. She was coming over and could he meet her at Bristol Airport? So off we went. Well, I needn't tell you that she didn't turn up. And since then, she's been asking him for money. We've now persuaded him to block her on Skype. He doesn't contact her any longer. He's not happy about it, but he does not do it anymore. And it's so sad because all he wanted was company, someone to talk to, and whatever else he was hoping for, I couldn't possibly comment. But I said to him, you know, you live in Weston. There's a lot going on. There's lots of groups and lunch clubs you can go to. You live in a block of flats that's full of older people. You're one gent out of 3 in a block of 73 flats, surrounded by widows in all the other flats. And he looked at me and he said, no, they're all old, Lynn. I'm not interested. And that is what catches you or catches them. And it's equally gentlemen looking for ladies and ladies looking for gentlemen. And it's really cruel because people think they found the love of their life and they most certainly have not. It's just horrible. It's just not a good thing. One of the other scams, which seems to rely, as the lady who got caught said to me, if I hadn't been so vain, I wouldn't have got caught. And it's what we call a subscription scam. And you know, when you're on the computer, excuse me, you get little pop-ups, don't you, advertising certain things. And this little pop-up came on her screen, advertising this amazing cream that was going to take away every wrinkle she ever had in about 5 minutes. And they'd like to send her a sample. She thought, I'm having some of that. So off it went. She paid something like $4.99 postage, and a little parcel arrived with a sachet of about a teaspoonful of this cream. No problem. She didn't want it. It didn't work. $4.99 down the pan. You know, I've had the experience, won't do it again. And then she started noticing on her bank statement that they'd taken $8.99, not $4.99, 1 month. The following month, they'd taken $12.99. And the following month, it had gone up to $15.99. And had she not picked up on that sum, which you actually get used to seeing on your statement to such an extent that certain people just won't take any notice of it anymore, it would have continued to rise. Now the bank paid it back, but it shook her up a wee bit that it's that easy to get caught. So yes, there are a lot out there. Yes, they are increasing. Yes, they are the same scams that we were looking at previously. It's really, really difficult, especially through the pandemic, where people were on their own. We couldn't go and visit because we were all nailed indoors anyway, and so it was easy. So I hope it's been a wee bit helpful. I think I've told you all of the main points. They are after personal details, anything they can get hold of, family details. Beware of passwords on your computer. Don't use ABC123. Don't use anything relating to date of birth, anything to do with your family. Nothing personal should be within your password on your computer because it's far too easy for hackers to get in. The advice is open a book, use a random word and put a couple of stars and a number on it. Makes the whole thing a lot harder. And I would do that if I thought there was any chance of me remembering my password. but just a little bit of advice. If you have any questions, I'll do my best to answer. And thank you for having me, Karen.
Lynn, thank you so much. My goodness. Well, I don't know where to start. That was for me really interesting, and I hope it was for everybody else as well. Does anybody have any questions? We've got a little bit of time for questions. If any, there's nothing on the chat at the moment, but if you want to ask Lynn any questions, I've got what I can start off with. What would you recommend if so your friend came to you?
She did.
Is it a service that somebody else could use as well?
Well, I always say, well, I cover North Somerset. So if it's anyone in North, I think everyone in North Somerset knows my number now. But what we do say is that if you report a scam to Citizens Advice will automatically refer it to North Somerset Trading Standards, and then eventually it will come to either to me or one of the team.
Okay, all right.
So that's one way. If you report to Action Fraud, it works in a slightly different way, in as much as they don't ring you up and see what it's all about. If they get one call about a scam, nothing will happen. If they get 50 calls about the same scam, then something might happen. So your best bet is to report to CAB, or I'm happy for you to give my phone number out to any of you, to anyone. That isn't a problem. I don't know. Got my number, Karen?
I haven't got it, but I can write it into the chat, or you can put it into the chat.
Yeah, or I can give it to anyone now. If anyone, I take it you've all got pens and paper, and like me, you're going to be writing furiously in a minute. So it's 0744 398 3505.
That's very kind of you, very generous of you.
I'm more than happy for anyone to pass it on.
In the past, I know I've sent off to fraud departments emails and that I've received, and like you say, if you get one on the desk, then they won't take any notice. But if they get a lot,
right,
it'll warning bells will start ringing.
Triggers, yeah, it does.
Penny has said thank you. That was very enlightening. But she has
Thank you, Penny.
questions.
Thank you. No, that's fine.
And thank you very, very much, Lynn. I really appreciate your time this morning.
It's a pleasure.
Okay, so I'm going to hand you over now to Ashley. Are you there, Ashley? I can't see you.
Here we go. I was incognito. You're all right. You're all right. Okay. Right. Right. I'm going to share my screen, if I may.
You can. You're co-host, so you should be able to share your screen.
There we go. Right. Let's get this.
I can see.
Show on the road.
Okay. Okay.
Let's get it. Okay. Everybody see that?
Yep. Scam Buster.
Right. Let me tell you what it's all about. So, staying on the scam theme, but perhaps broadening it to a wider picture. I'm the Regional Fraud Protection Advisor for the Southwest of England. I work for the Southwest Regional Organised Crime Unit. Nobody's aware of that. It is basically a regional police force which supports your local territorial police forces with a range of different services. And I used to be an officer with Avon and Somerset Police. Now I'm a civil servant. I retired from the police, and I work for the ROCU, as we call it, as the Fraud Protection Advisor for the Southwest. And at this stage, I'm not going to, and this normally takes a little longer, but Lynn has very skillfully told you much about fraud. So I'll gloss over the areas which perhaps would be repeated. But it's true to say fraud really doesn't get the attention it deserves when it comes to public awareness, which, particularly when it comes to the news, tends to focus on the more violent and salacious crimes, which are actually very small in number, whereas fraud is by far the most common crime in the UK right now. And cost to the UK economy in 2020, around about £190 billion, according to the stats generated by the National Crime Agency. In perspective, during the same period of time, the budget of the NHS was 130 billion. So gives us an idea of the extent of damage that fraud causes. I should say that's all fraud against the country as well, not just ordinary people. But there were or are around about 14,000 frauds reported every single day in the UK. That's just reported. It's not the total extent. And that's the crime survey in England and Wales gives us these statistics. So it's as fairly accurate as we can be. Total loss to ordinary people, such as you and I, is around about 7 billion. That's, your pensions, your life savings, your rainy day money. And compared to 190 billion, it sounds small, but actually 7 billion, if better invested, would pay for 17,500 heart transplant operations, which cost about 40,000 each. So you can see the damage or the positivity that could spring from that lost funds if it weren't, siphoned off into criminality. Fraud accounts for 42% of all crime, which we report here in the United Kingdom. That number is going up and up. I have to say, I started this job in January 2021, and that number said 36. It said 40 at the beginning of this month, and this number is going up and up. It's because the way we lead our lives are changing. We are now thrust into a virtual world quite often, and the way that we manage money, we do our shopping, it's changing forever. We live in a cashless society predominantly, and people are having to change the way they lead their lives. I should tell you that 70% of all the frauds that are reported to Action Fraud come over the telephone. So the telephone is the biggest route into your life by the fraudster in the modern era. The remainder, 30%, roughly, mostly the internet, occasionally through the letterbox, occasionally knocks on your door, but the majority of them are over the telephone. One of the issues for us in law enforcement is that fraud is a hidden crime. It is a crime of intimacy. Because it's mostly over the telephone, it'll be in your own home where you get this approach by the fraudster. And, there'll be nobody else present. There's no witnesses. There's no evidence. There's no fingerprints or DNA or photographs on a CCTV camera. And as a result, many, many victims do not report it when they fall victim to a crime. In fact, we know only about 15% do make us aware that when they're a victim. The other 85% goes unreported. Apologies, lots of statistics and numbers in there. One more before I stop talking about numbers. 80% of fraud is preventable. All right, it's not inevitable that we will be the victim of a fraud. We will be targeted. I'm sure we will. We get targeted every day. I know I am. I get the emails and the phone calls every day. But with some knowledge, we are less likely to become victims. And that's what we're all about here, sharing knowledge, which empowers us to stay safe. Now, I want to dispel a few myths. Do not think that fraud is complex and difficult to understand because it's often perceived as a white-collar crime. It's not, all right? Fraud is theft by lying. If somebody lies to you in order to steal your money, goods, or services, that is fraud. It's as simple as that. So don't think it's going to be some big, convoluted, difficult thing to understand. It can be as simple as a single lie. What is more complex, perhaps, is the way that many fraudsters employ fraud these days. They do something called social engineering to get you to believe in their fraud. Social engineering is just a clever manipulation of our natural human tendency to be trusting. And in practical application, what they tend to do is ring you up and pretend to be from a trusted agency, police, some other form of government agency. Lynn mentioned the HM Revenue and Customs, National Health Service. They pretend to be from an organization that you are, you generally trust, to gain your belief and your understanding of what they're going to tell you. It's really important for me to tell you that if anybody rings you and purports to be from the police or another government agency, you must not believe them until it is proved beyond your doubt that they really are from the police. And from my perspective, the only way they can prove it is if somebody is standing in front of you and you can check their credentials. You can't prove somebody's identity over the telephone or over the internet because anything can be manipulated. The other thing they will do is prey upon your good manners. They know that you are polite, and you will not like saying no, being rude and abrupt, slamming the phone down. All right. Actually, that is your best route to staying safe in fraud. If somebody rings you up and tries to engage you in conversation, particularly financially or after your personal information, you put the phone down. You say no, you just end the conversation. There is no need to apologize because they'll keep you talking. That's their goal, to keep you in conversation, because it is within the conversation that the deception will be hidden. So put that phone down. There is no etiquette involved in staying safe. So just end the chat, say no. It's also worth being aware that fraud is not just about money. Equally, they're after your personal information, your data, because your information, that data, which is out there to a large degree already, if they get a bit more, if they can steal information from you, it may allow them to do you financial harm. Now, that might mean, opening a credit card account using your information and then drawing down debt upon it, which will leave you in an awkward position trying to sort that all out. So my advice to people is quite simply, we protect our personal information as if it was money. If somebody rings you up and asks you to reveal your full name, date of birth, mother's maiden name, bank account number, you simply don't give it. We never reveal that information to people that we are not 100% certain, excuse me, of their identity or of the reason why they want it. And again, that for me involves a physical meeting with somebody whom I can confirm their identity. This cannot be done over the phone. Nobody can prove their identity over the telephone, regardless of what they will tell you. Now, I'm going to run through a quick few frauds, which perhaps will give you an idea of the frauds that are out there. No means is this exhaustive. It's merely a sort of list of some of the ones you'll encounter. One of them is advance fee fraud. Now, advance fee fraud is a simple, straightforward fraud. It's a trap, okay, as you can see, baited with free money, goods or services. They've got different shapes and formats. Generally speaking, they'll be offering you something. Competitions, prizes, lotteries. They'll tell you that you've won a prize, £10,000. But in order to claim that £10,000, you have to pay an admin fee upfront or provide your bank details so that they can transfer the money to your account. Folks, you can't win the lottery unless you've bought the ticket. And, if you ever get told otherwise, it's going to be a lie. Inheritance fraud works on a similar way. It basically tells you that somebody's died, a distant relative, you've inherited wealth, but in order to claim that money, you have to pay a fund, some funds up front or something of that nature. The thing that you want, that they're offering you, is always way just off in the distance. And to get to it, you have to do something. That's the fraud. Gambling Tips reminds us it's not just about money. I had one the other day where a gentleman was a horse racing enthusiast, like this gambling, and he joined what he thought was an online syndicate in which he had to pay money. I think it was £250 to join. He expected to get tips in return, which would enhance his chances of success. Once he paid his money, they disappeared. It was as simple as that. It was, as Lynn said, too good to be true. Now, I get all of the data in my role, obviously, thankfully, which people report their frauds to Action Fraud. So I can tell you of the frauds which we are most commonly exposed to here in the Southwest. It is different in different parts of the country. Predominantly, we have different crimes because we have an older population base here in the Southwest. The over 65 age group in the Southwest is growing twice as fast in our region as in any other region. This is because people choose to come to Somerset, Cornwall, Devon to retire. So we got an aging population. So the types of frauds we get exposed to represent that. So in reverse order, in beauty pageant style, all right, the third most common fraud in the Southwest is investment fraud. Now, this has gone up significantly during the pandemic since the interest rate took a nosedive. And it tends to affect people in Act 3 of life, over 55 years of age generally, who have savings, because when the interest rate goes down, people who have investments, assets saved, which generate an income, they struggle to find that money from elsewhere. So they tend to shop around to get a better investment opportunity. Fraudsters, when they see the interest rate declining, they will act because they know we will start to shop around. And during the pandemic, the way that they did this was to create replicas or clones of trusted investment opportunities websites. So banks, building societies, things like that. So you would be doing your shopping around online, thinking, I'm going to try and get a better interest rate than the one I've got. You would fall upon their website because it's got a slightly better interest rate than you'll find anywhere else. You will go on there, you'll ring the number, you'll speak to a human being. You might exchange emails. It'll seem utterly plausible. You think you are speaking to the Lloyds, the Barclays, or whatever it may be. You will wire your money across as if you're making a normal investment, only to find that money has disappeared. It is quite simply an investment fraud. The way to counteract that is, if you are thinking about investing online, use a financial advisor who's accredited by the Financial Conduct Authority. go on their website if you want to know more about that. But my advice to people takes it down a step lower. If you want to invest your money, you don't have to use the internet, all right? You can go into a bricks and mortar location where you'll speak to a human being. You can be confirmed, confident in their identity and their credentials. So never think the internet's your only route. If it's not comfortable, don't do it. Because, you know, there are many criminals out there who have tools to catch you out. They use something called spoofing today. Spoofing in its simple sense means masking or hiding behind something. So telephone, for instance, when you get a phone call, you'll get that caller display. And, you know, you look at that number and you'll think, I don't recognize the number as such, but actually I can see it's a local number, maybe Bristol or whatever it may be. So I'll answer it because it's local. Right? It must be safe. It's local. Not so. Your caller display can be manipulated to say anything. All right. So it might be originating from Timbuktu. So never believe what you see on a caller display. They can be altered. And when it comes to emails, even easier, right? Look at these two email addresses here. This is the back end of an email address. Both of them purport to be from the Barclays Bank. One is genuine, one is fraudulent. It's hard to tell, isn't it, which is which? I can tell you the bottom one is fraudulent because those are not letter A's. They are symbols from the Cyrillic alphabet, which bear the resemblance to the letter A's that we recognize in our alphabet. Whoever controls the bottom email address, it isn't the Barclays Bank. I use this merely as an example to show you how easy it is to make something look plausible when it isn't. So just be aware of it and be conscious. Okay, the second most common fraud in the Southwest, Lynn mentioned it. This is very devastating, and it is romance fraud. Now, romance fraud, to be honest, I think we should change its name. I think it should be called relationship fraud, but romance is where it started, and that's where it got its title. And it's still valid to a degree. Do you know that half of all relationships in the UK today begin online? And that's another trend in the way that we're living our lives differently. You know, we no longer, particularly after this last 2 years, we don't go to pubs, we don't meet people in the workplace because we work from home and we don't go to pubs. So, you know, things are changing. People are turning to the internet to build relationships, be it romantic or otherwise. And the most common victims, statistically, are women 50-59, men 20-29. That merely tells us there is no specific group in the population who are individually targeted. This is a broad spectrum. I mean, the oldest victim that I've encountered is in their late 80s, a gentleman. Lynn, I think you talked about a chap in his 90s. There is no, you know, people often think of romance fraud of younger people because this is their medium for communication. Not so. I met my wife on a dating site. I've been married for 15 years. So, you know, this is a normal route that people make to marry, to get involved these days, not just romantically, but in normal relationships as well. Actually, only 40% of what we determine as romance fraud ever begins on a dating site. The vast amount comes through other social media and online gaming. So other social media, of course, will be things like Facebook forums, book clubs, gardening groups, you know, who use the internet as a medium to meet. And online gaming, when I say that, most people picture teenagers playing these games, right? Absolutely not. The largest run of fraud was hang on, I think somebody's turned it. The largest run of frauds we had recently was from chess sites. So you can go on these online chess games, play somebody around the world, lifetime, and that was where fraudsters had permeated into these groups, because almost as you play these live games, there's a chat facility where you can speak to the person you're playing, and the frauds were originating from there. There is no level that they will not stoop to. So don't think you're safe. As Lynn said, you know, one of the issues with romance or relationship fraud, it's an emotional crime as well as a physical one. People lose their hopes and dreams. You know, people do kill themselves as a consequence of being victimized in fraud. It's happened here in our region very recently, and you know, and I can understand why. People lose their happy ever after as well as their money. It's not uncommon for us to see financial losses in the six-figure range, but the average victim of romance fraud will lose at least £10,000 each. So it is a very big financial loss. And how do they do it? Well, There's many ways. As I say, it might be through a book club, a chess group, a dating site, but you will encounter people, right? And they will online. It's important to say they're online. They never meet in the real world. They will find reasons why they can't meet you in the real world, but you will meet people through a virtual world. And of course, they'll be very charming, very flattering. They will pay you incredible regard. And then once they've won your trust, they will ask you for a favor. Small favor at first, might be a small loan of money to maintain the relationship because they need to pay their phone bill. And it'll grow and grow. As Lynn said, they might ask you to pay a check into your account and then forward it somewhere else, thus drawing you into a money laundering offense. And the thing that we do know is that these favors will grow and grow and grow until you've no money left. The key, really, the official tagline is don't let your heart rule your head. What I say to people is I've known friends and acquaintances in my life for over 40 years, and they have never asked me for a financial favor. So if somebody I had just met online, never really met them, mind, but I only know them in a virtual world, and they start asking me for a financial favor, that is where the relationship would end. And I suggest that is a line in the sand that we all draw when it comes to people we meet online. Okay, number one fraud in the Southwest is courier fraud. Courier fraud, a little bit more difficult to understand, but I've got a real life story which will bring it into reality for you. I used to be, when I was a serving officer, the sergeant in charge of Burnham-on-Sea police station. And one day I was called to the counter, and there was an older gentleman at the counter, and classic courier fraud story. A week before he comes into the station, he's at home, gets a phone call out of the blue. Phone rings, picks it up. Person on the phone knows his name, knows where he goes to the bank. So they got a little bit of information, 2 bits of information about our friend. They tell him that the person on the phone is a police officer. They tell him that they are investigating a crime at our victim's bank. The police believe that one of the cashiers in the bank is using their position to launder stolen money through the bank. And they intend to catch him by creating a sting investigation, all right? And they're going to put marked banknotes into the circulation of the bank, and it'll prove that this cashier is undertaking criminal activity. And they want our victim to assist in this police investigation by going to the bank and drawing out as much of his money as he can, because the person on the phone tells him, if you do that, you will get some of these marked banknotes in the money that you get. It'll prove that this cashier is crooked. So we want you to get all that money, get as much as you can, increase the chances of getting these marked notes. So get as much as you can, bring it home, package it up. Then we will send a courier to your house. They'll take that package of money to the police forensic science laboratory. We'll test it. It will prove that there's been a criminal act, and we'll arrest the cashier, and all will be well. It sounds implausible when I tell you that, but I should tell you that they spoke to this man every day for a week. They told him a little bit of that story every day. It was classic brainwashing, classic social engineering. He believed it. He went to the bank. He drew out a substantial sum of money, and on his way home, luckily, he called into the police station and I met him. So he didn't lose that money. But he absolutely believed that he was helping the police with an investigation. It is key for me to say here, the police will never, ever ring you and ask you to withdraw money from your account and hand it to anybody else, or electronically move your money from one account to another. Anything like that, suggesting from the police or another government agency, is going to be a fraud. All right? You can discount it immediately. Now, these fraudsters will also pretend to be from banks, building societies, and so on. This is a scam email. This one says Barclays, could say any bank. And, in this case, they tell us there's been a software upgrade, and they want us to provide our data to prove our identity. It's a scam. No bank or building society will ever send you an email in which they will ask you to provide your data back to them to prove your identity, because we know this is the way fraudsters act to steal information. If you ever get contact like that, it's going to be a fraud. Most contact that purports to be from banks in unsolicited emails should be treated with extreme caution. They'll also pretend to be from trusted government agencies of any kind. Police, yes, but also less common. HM Revenue and Customs is a really big one. Lynn mentioned that. DVLA, Passports Office, TV licensing. And generally, they will do one of two things. They will tell you you've done something wrong and tell you you're being fined or you've got to pay something back, or that you've been overpaid or you've given tax in this particular case, and they're going to give you a refund. And in order to facilitate that refund, they need data from you to process it. And they're after your data. That's what it's all about. They're stealing your information. I should tell you, HM Revenue and Customs will never send you an email, a text, or a telephone call in which they ask you to pay money of any kind. They will only contact you via your home address via mail. If you're a regular commercial user of HMRC, they'll do it through their safe portal. But us ordinary folks, we'll only ever get letters from them. Anything else is a fraud, and you can discount it immediately. Okay, those were the top 3 frauds. They do change from time to time. They are different to other parts of the country. It's not an exhaustive list, but I'm now going to finish up quickly by giving you my golden rules to avoid fraud. And they're simple. Lynn has mentioned some of these already, but it's worth reiterating because these work in keeping you safe. The first one is a classic. If it sounds too good to be true, it probably is. All right. So if I was to tell you that I've got a cake here and you can eat as much of this cake as you like, and you're not going to gain any weight. All right. In fact, you will lose weight and become more athletic by our stand-in Adonis here. Right. You will know instinctively you cannot eat cake and lose weight. You'll have a voice in the back of your head saying, whoa, hang on a minute. That isn't possible. Many frauds give themselves away by being too good to be true. And your instinct will often let you know that. Now, you will want to overcome that instinct because the thing that it's offering you is something that you want or you would like to have. But trust your instinct. That's as far as I'll say. The other thing you will find with most frauds, particularly those over the telephone and the like, they will have an element of the pressure of time, which is used to get you to make an error of judgment. Because as human beings, we do not like making decisions under pressure. We tend to make the wrong ones. That's why they pile the pressure on. So if you find yourself in a situation where somebody is applying pressure to get you to make a quick decision on a financial matter or a matter of your personal information, think very carefully. Be suspicious. They may be applying pressure because they want you to make an error of judgment.
This is about scams and.
Okay, there we go. Right. I think we got a bit of feedback there. Somebody wants to turn their mic off. There we go. So the other thing that you need to be aware of, you should never pay in a way which is uncomfortable or unusual for you. So by that, I mean, if you're buying something or somebody asks you to move money around and they ask you to transfer money using cryptocurrency or Bitcoin, or if they ask you to go to the post office and wire money to, say, a Western Union bank account or some other form of electronic transfer, these are highly suspicious ways of moving money around. It's not normal. It's out of the ordinary. You should say to yourself, why is this happening? Your instinct here should be kicking in. And a very, very common route is gift vouchers or gift cards. I took this photo in Sainsbury's in Weston-super-Mare, actually. Every supermarket's got a wall of these things, and it's endemic with the change of our lives, all right? We talked about a cashless society. You know, when you give money to people as a gift these days, nobody wants cash. So we use these cards as a mechanism of handing a cash gift to somebody. And again, it seems more safe placing one of these cards in a birthday card and sending it to somebody rather than putting cash in a card. So this is a route many people take, and fraudsters know this, because if you buy one of those cards, and the ones that they particularly like are Amazon and iTunes, Apple, you can put a couple of £100 on them. And, you know, the person you're engaging with online might say, look, you know, I'd like you to, I want to borrow some money off you, your romance fraudster, for instance. And I tell you what, if you go and buy an Amazon card, when you get home, put £200 on it. On the back of the card, there's a code number. Give me that code number over the internet or text it to me or whatever. By giving them that code number, you are giving them the money, because that money can be redeemed anywhere in the world. You know, you can go on Amazon anywhere in the world and use that code number to buy something and have it sent to your address. You are effectively transferring your money to somebody if you give them the code number. So if anybody ever asks you to pay for something using a gift card, that is absolutely going to be highly suspicious. Proceed with extreme caution. It's likely to be a fraud. Goes without saying, we should never give our personal information over the telephone. So if an unsolicited phone rings right now, I pick it up. It doesn't matter what they say or who they say they are. I do not know where that phone call originated. They might say they're the Pope or the Dalai Lama or the Chief of Police. We can't prove it because we don't know where that phone call originated. So we must assume that it's not true. We never give our information to anybody who calls us out of the blue. Now, if we are concerned that it's a real call, we put the phone down. We get, we personally seek out the telephone number for that organization. Say it's the gas company. We get our bill, we look on the back of the bill, we use the customer service number, which is provided for us on the bill, then we ring that number ourselves, preferably using a different phone to make sure they've not kept the line open. And then we know for sure that we really are speaking to the gas company. And we can speak to them in confidence because we have placed the call. Whereas when they ring us, it's outside of our control. Always remember that difference. Always remember, ask for advice. If you're not sure, if you're in a situation where you're uncertain, ask for advice. Friend, relative, neighbor, you can even ring the police and they will give you advice. I always say to people, always have a cup of tea before you make a decision, because making a cup of tea allows you time to think, all right? It gives you time to get your ducks in a row in the mind, and you will make a much better, more logical decision when you've given it thinking time than if you make a spontaneous decision. Because when you get these phone calls, they want you to make a quick decision. And you just tell them, no, I'm not in a position to make that call right now. I want time to think about it. Put the phone down. If they don't give you time to think, the chances are it's suspicious, all right? No government agency will pressure you to do anything if you're not sure. The only people who will apply undue pressure to you are fraudsters. Make a brew before you make a decision. Never be one of those 85% of people from my iceberg who do not report it if you fall victim to a fraud, or you may fall victim. If you've had a phone call and after you've put the phone down, you think, oh God, have I just given my details out to somebody there and I'm not sure their identity? What should I do? I'll just wait to see if anything happens. That's the wrong call, all right? Don't wait. Ring the bank. Don't ring the police. The police don't control your money. They can't help you at this point. Ring your bank immediately. Get your bank statement out, look on the back, ring customer service, ring them and tell them what's just happened, because they can keep an eye on your account. They can stop money leaving. Even if money has begun to leave in a transaction, they can stop it and draw it back. The sooner you act, the more chance there is of safeguarding your money. Don't think, well, it could be true. I'll just wait to see what happens. It's too late. Ring the bank. After you've rung the bank, then ring Action Fraud. Now, Action Fraud is a national fraud reporting service. It's overseen by the police. Their job is really about safeguarding and protection. So they'll take your information. They will use the information you have. So if you've captured a phone number or an email address, they may use it to try and block those routes having access to the UK systems. But most predominantly, they will try and protect you, because we know most victims of fraud are targeted and retargeted over and over again. 56% of the financial loss to fraud comes from repeat victims, not first-time victims. So when you ring them, they will give you advice. If you're not very vulnerable, they just tell you what to do. If you're exceptionally vulnerable, they will even send a police officer or a fraud protection officer, depending on where you live, to your home, and they will support you. If you live in North Somerset, I think many of you do, or the Avon and Somerset policing area for sure. Avon and Somerset Police has 2 fraud protection officers who are full-time, and it's their job to go to the victims of crime and look after them, make sure they're not going to get retargeted. They are even in a position to fit true call devices that Lynn talked about, which will filter your phone calls. And this is a free of charge service, obviously. Okay, final thing, last thing. I kept you talking long enough. This is a little weird thing, all right? I always do this at the end of my presentations to just get one thing to stick in your mind. I'd like you to imagine for a moment that you are a gazelle, all right? And I know it's weird, but still go with me. You're a gazelle and you're having a happy life on the plains of Africa, all right? And all is well. And one day you look down and you see one of these fellas creeping through the long grass towards you. And you're looking at it and you think, you know what? I've never seen one of them before. I don't know what it is. But something is telling me that I've got to run away from this as fast as possible, right? Even though I don't know what it is, something in my guts is telling me I've got to run away. That is instinct, all right? It is instinct that prevents our gazelle from becoming this leopard's lunch. Now, instinct can be a very powerful ally in the battle to stay free from fraud. I can tell you, unfortunately, in my many years of service, I have met hundreds, maybe thousands now, of victims of fraud. And you will be amazed at the proportion of them who will say to me, do you know what? I knew there was something dodgy about that. I thought it was fishy. And I always say to them, well, if you thought it was weird, why did you go ahead with it then? And they will always say, well, do you know what? I had my eye on that £10,000. You know, I'd started spending it mentally, and I really, really wanted it to be true. Even though I thought it was odd, I really wanted it to be true. Or they'll say, you know, the police officer, so-called police officer who rung me up, they were so professional. They were so strident in their manner and authoritative. I felt I couldn't say no. You know, I thought I was really helping a police investigation and saving other people from becoming victims. So I felt like I couldn't say no. And even though they knew it was dodgy, they still walked towards the leopard, all right, because they were overcoming their instinct. My advice to people is always, if you get any inkling, that hair sticking up on the back of the neck, that little voice saying, whoa, hang on, this is too good to be true. If you get any of that, that is your instinct. That is your inner gazelle calling out to you saying, something is wrong. And you be a fool in this animal kingdom to disobey your instinct, right? If the gazelle disobeys his instinct, he's going to be lunch. For us, if we go against our instinct, regardless what the potential reward is, we run the risk of financial devastation. So my advice is simply go with your instinct. If it doesn't feel right, if anything smells fishy about it, you back out. Now, that might just mean putting the phone down. It might mean deleting the email. It might mean shutting the door or throwing that letter away. But do what you've got to do to protect yourself from fraud, and you will be safer in the long run. Okay, sorry. We used to have a leopard there, but there's been some cuts.
You're along.
Okay. So as you know, I'm the regional fraud protection advisor for the Southwest. I give that talk physically, generally, to groups all around the Southwest. In fact, I'm doing 7 this week. Tomorrow I am in Gloucester and somewhere else. So if you're representing your group today, a charity, a group, or whatever it may be, that feel that your staff, your team members, your volunteers may benefit from a talk of that nature, get in touch. You can get my information quite easily, and you just need to book me in. Everything's free, public service, work for the police. So there we go.
Well, wow, goodness me. Some fantastic advice there, Ashley. Thank you so much. And yeah, clearly together with Lynn's contribution as well, I think we're quite well sort of versed now. Hopefully everybody can take something away from that. Let me just have a look. I can see something on the chat. Thank you, Ashley. I like the analogy of the animal kingdom, says Penny. Thank you, Penny. Yes, I agree. Does anybody have any questions for Ashley before we move on to Liam? If not, I'll say thank you very much to Ashley and open the floor to Liam. You're on. Ashley, you're going to stay around? You're welcome to stay around, but
I'm staying here. Yeah, I'm staying here.
All right. Okay. Lovely. Liam, over to you.
Good morning, everyone. Now, obviously, I've got to follow 2 great presentations there, so it's the change in the schedule there hasn't necessarily benefited me, but I'll do my best. So it's great to see you all, and thank you for having me here today as well, Karen. So I will just put my screen up, and we shall go away. So here we are. Hopefully, the presentation's coming up for you. Now, I have left the subtitles on. Just to support understanding and accessibility, but if they, I will just state now as a disclaimer, they are live transcriptions, so some of the words do come up a little bit different than what I'm saying, so it's good for comedy anyway. I can certainly say that for you. So yeah, we're going to talk today about compassion fatigue a little bit. So just to introduce myself, as you can see, my name is Liam Dutton. I'm Partnership Manager for Nurseline Healthcare, which is part of Campus Care Group. Okay, so I am in my 20th year of working in care, and support. Started in 2002 in learning disability support, and I've worked in various different areas and roles, from an escort on the bus through to management, and then obviously with the family now as partnership manager. So the Cutlass Care Group is based in Bristol. It started in 2010 with Nurseline Healthcare, which was set up by our CEO Trevor, who is a registered mental health nurse himself, and wanted to start to make a difference. He didn't like the way that mental health agencies were being supported in terms of the care that was out there, but also the way the staff were being treated as well. He started up in his garage, he's built it up, and we are now based in Exeter, Slough and Manchester with a range of different brands. So we support temporary staffing solutions, training, recruitment, and also care at home. I will share this presentation with you all. So you've got my email address there, and you've also got a link to our website there as well for you. Okay. Hopefully you can hear me all right, Karen. If you can just give me a nod so I can see you on the thing. Hopefully it's coming through.
Yes, it's fine, thank you.
I do apologise for the crackly throat a little bit. So compassion fatigue, why are we talking about this? Well, we're all aware of the pressures that we've seen over the recent years. In fact, from an inside looking out, the society understanding of health and social care has certainly come more into fashion really over the last couple of years. But we've always been under pressure. We've always had to be thinking about very difficult working on social hours, thinking about doing the best for someone when you're not necessarily feeling the best yourself. We have seen these extra pressures. Okay, we've seen the Be Kind movement moving around in early 2020, and then of course the pandemic. We're seeing lots of different things there. We're seeing increased budget cuts, increased expectation of support, increased expectation on us, harder legislation, compliance and regulatory compliance to be dealing with and supporting. They're all there for good reasons, but again, it's things that we've got to be understanding. Those challenges are now getting seen a lot more in society, not just from the health and social care perspective, but everyone is getting that understanding of what it's like to have these things going on. You guys are going to know just as well as I will that the biggest asset that you will have more than anything is going to be your staff team. That's what we do. We are professionals providing services to support people with life. Okay, we are the specialists. You know, if I've got a problem with the car, I go to a mechanic. If I've got a problem with money, I go to the bank. If I've got a problem with fraud, obviously, you know, we've got these great experts that have joined us here today. But actually, when people need help with their life, whether it's a little bit of need or a lot of need, that's what we're here for. And we need people to do that. But we need to be able to make sure, like everything else, that for us to provide those services, our assets can continue to support and they can continue to work. So obviously, you know, we want to make sure that we can do that. So let's have a look at compassion fatigue. What is it? It was a new term to me. It's a fairly new concept, as it's sort of mentioned in the slide there as well. We're seeing a lot of different things entering health and social care that maybe have ideas and thought processes that have been around for a while, but we've not necessarily had them in the forefront of our minds. But as we're evolving and growing as an industry, we're starting to see these concepts being introduced. Unconscious bias is a classic example, and compassion fatigue is another. So although they're new concepts to us, maybe you may be familiar with the concept yourself, or you may have had an inkling around it, they have been around a while. So if we look at Systemic Review from 2016, they identify compassion fatigue as the stress resulting from exposure to a traumatized individual. Okay, so we're talking about something that's actually happened to someone else, but it's the people that are supporting those people that have received the trauma that can get that secondary trauma, a convergence of secondary trauma, stress, and that cumulative burnout as well. We obviously, you know, when we talk about burnout, we think about stress, we're thinking about that state of physical and mental exhaustion caused by that never-ending requirement to keep going, to keep supporting that depleted ability to cope with your own environment based on that experience yourselves as well. We are probably familiar with this. It's just a new name, it's a new concept perhaps, but we've all seen this within our lives as well. The signs that we're going to look out for with compassion fatigue are going to be very similar to those associated with stress and also with trauma. Okay, so someone with compassion fatigue will be experiencing that physical or that emotional, or even both, that exhaustion in both areas. I just can't carry on. I just feel exhausted. I'm constantly tired. We're going to see those physical changes as well. It could be the loss of appetite, the loss of weight, the increase in weight, looking drawn, becoming unwell, lower immune system. Okay, all signs that we're not necessarily looking after ourselves. Along with that, we can see the changes in behaviour as well. It could be that we see that low self-esteem, that feeling of I'm not worth anything anymore, I can't do anything, being disconnected from things that you love, your hobbies, your interests, your job, other people, having that disconnection from the world, and that loss of interest in lots of other things as well. There are, of course, many contributing factors when we look at compassion fatigue and stress in general. Our lifestyle is completely different now than probably what it was 2 years ago for a lot of people, 5 years, 10 years, 20 years. We are living in a different world. The examples that Lynn and Ashley have gone through around the changes in how fraud and scams have come about show that we live in a different world than we have done. The increase in social media uses, the increase in digital technology use, the increased hours that people are working, and the expectation to be there 24/7 rather than the 9 to 5 that we may have seen in general lifestyle has made that work-life integration really difficult. We're also seeing greater things such as higher bills, more money that needed, or higher debt on a national level. So we're needing to work more perhaps, and that's certainly the case for our staff as well, isn't it? They can't be just taking a day off necessarily to think about things. They need to be in there, they need to be doing that because people rely on that as well. We're all familiar with burnout. We know that we can get to that point. We burn the candle too long, we will eventually need that support there as well. But it's also understanding the fact that in many situations, our staff teams are supporting people with significant trauma themselves. They've been introduced. Oh, sorry, I've just got a echo from someone. There we go. Hopefully that's reduced it there. So our teams may have been exposed to a second trauma from someone else, so they're supporting someone with something quite difficult, whether it's an immediate trauma, it's a situational trauma, or it's a degenerative trauma, it's complex care needs, complex behavioural needs. We know the industry, we know that we're supporting a lot of different things and every person is different, and that constant exposure, keeping going can be very difficult. We also have to understand that we all have our own experiences and we may have had traumas in our life that are very unique to us. Okay, something that I may deal with quite well, Karen may struggle with, whereas something that Karen, is important to Karen that she really struggles with, I might be all right with. Okay, we have to understand that it's definitely our individual experiences are very key to our output on life and what we can give in life and what we do in our lives as well. Getting that understanding is going to be really important. I do want to chip in and just say, has anyone got any examples of where they've maybe seen this within their lives recently or in the past, any times that they want to talk about burnout?
There's nothing on the chat at the moment, Liam, but does anybody want to join the conversation? Not at the moment. Okay.
I fully planned for the tumbleweed moment, so absolutely. And absolutely, this is definitely something difficult to talk about, maybe, especially in a forum as this. I've myself have seen lots of examples over the years. I've seen it within myself as well. There was a point, so previously I worked for a local authority for 15 years. That's where I started my career. And in the managerial position, saw a lot of people there supporting. And I never really recognised it you know, it's always something that happened to everyone else. Yeah, I'll be all right. I can keep going. You know, everyone else is you know, they might need their support there. They need that support there. I need to do this job. I need to make sure that these people are okay. And then it hit. And it hit there, and it was from dealing with not just staff, but also with the service users that we were going. And there was a lot of challenge behaviour support that went on, and there was other experiences going on as well. And it got to a point where burnout occurred, and I got ill. I got ill with a viral infection that did not go. And this was a long time before COVID, and we understand a lot more that viral infections certainly can lead to longer symptoms observed for people. This was about 10 years ago now. So the understanding of that, the social acceptance of that maybe wasn't there. And it took about 3 months for me to get well again, which did result in longer time off work. I did need to take time off work for longer. It meant that I couldn't deal with things as well in my life. And that burnout really could have been addressed a lot sooner. And this is the point that we want to make now, and it's the thing that's probably most important for everyone to take away. It's not as good as the gazelle analogy, so I'm not going to win that one. But what I will say is that we all think that we will be the one that's okay. We're the one that will be able to deal with it. We're the one that's dealing with it properly. We've got that work-life integration, but we may not. And it could be that it's that instinct that Ashley was talking about, that feeling inside that's saying, actually, when you look at it, you know, something's not right here. It's just being truth to ourselves there as well. Okay, so talked about that. Why, you know, how can that supporting that compassion fatigue help you in your organization? Well, we've just had a few examples there just from my own story there a little bit about what can happen is that sickness reduction. You know, if we're seeing a reduction in stress related and, you know, mental health related sickness across the Catalyst family recently because of some of the measures we've been putting in. And that's because we recognised where this came from in the first place. Okay, supporting people with their stress, supporting people with their mental health is becoming very important, and I'm sure you're aware of that. You don't need me to be saying that. We're very aware of it in society, we're aware of it in the sector, we're aware of it within our organisations. CQC, Skills for Care, the NHS, the UK government are all talking about well-being and supporting people. So we want to be able to see that sickness reduction. We're going to see a great bit of staff retention there as well. Happy people are happy with their jobs. Okay, people that are unhappy with their jobs may not stay for long. There may be reasons they do, but ultimately we want our places of work to be somewhere that are safe, that are enjoyable, that are supportive of us. That is an ever increasing factor in job searches now. We're seeing people that are looking for not just how much do I get paid, but what's the experience like? How can I work? Is there hybrid working available? What are the benefits of me working here? We're very much in that position in health and social care where we want to make recruitment look attractive, aren't we? Within that as well, obviously, if we're looking at supporting compassion fatigue, we're going to be introducing skills to do so. Okay, there's lots of different things that we can do, but we're looking at the growth of the team, and we're looking at the growth of the management and the leaders within those teams as well to support this. Therefore, we're going to be developing our skills. We're going to make things better. It's going to feed into that culture. Okay, as you know, cultures will not just jump up or jump down. They will not become more inclusive and more supportive overnight, just the same as they won't become abusive or not supportive overnight as well. It's a long time that we look into culture, but feeding into culture is ultimately going to be very supportive. All of this is going to lead to better returns, isn't it? If we're paying less for sickness, if we're not having to pay so much for training, or if we talk about retention and recruitment, we're going to see better financial benefits for ourselves as well. So we've talked about the benefits, but how can you support compassion fatigue for yourself and for your team? Well, the first thing with everything, the same as we talked about these other concepts like unconscious bias, is being aware of compassion fatigue, what it is, what it can do. Okay, that is going to be the first step, but also allow your teams to be aware of it. Talk about it. There's we've got a half-hour slot. There's so much information around stress and well-being and compassion fatigue out there already that you don't need me to go on about it for you. But being aware of it, looking into that yourself, make that something that's on your to-do list this week. Make it a priority, because one day it could be a priority, and if we worked already towards it, it's going to be something that could be really useful. Those formal and informal one-to-ones are really useful areas, really useful forums to be starting these conversations with people. We use this process in the Countless Care group called Stay Interviews recently, which was to look at our retention, look at what we can do to make things better. They really help start to feed into a better understanding of our workforce in general, of the relationships that are there, the support mechanisms were in place and what was needed. Again, another thing to say, that making it the long game. We can look for quick wins. We can put a new coffee machine in the staff room. We can add an extra £1 onto the holiday pay, or we can introduce a day off for employee of the month. These things are great, but they're all small wins. Only by building this into the culture of an organisation, just the same as well-being in general, are you going to see the benefits come back. It's that investment in time, investment potentially in money, but more so in time and in relationships. It's going to give itself the reward for you. Communication is key with all of this. Okay, I've got some tips on communication skills in a little bit, but it's very important to understand that actually opening up that two-way process, understanding what the experience is like for our teams, is going to make things really important. Promoting that self-compassion, that self-care is also highly supportive. It's also really useful for your teams and for yourselves as well. Getting that understanding around compassion fatigue, getting that understanding around how to support yourself with your well-being is going to be really important. There are self-tests around compassion fatigue available online. There's lots of different versions, so they should be easy enough to find as well. These could be a useful exercise in a team environment or within those one-to-ones. Let's do this. Let's look at this. But don't just look at it that one time. Let's think in 3 months, or in 6 months, or in a year. Let's look back at it again. What did we say then? What's better now? What's worse now? What's changed now? What can we do? Processes that involve supporting culture are always about evolving, working together with time. We can look at different support from organisations. Again, I've got some examples of that in a moment for you. Think about the adjustments that can be made. What can we do to make this work better for you? What can we do to keep you going? In order for my car to go, I need diesel. I need to make sure that the oil's in there. Okay, I need to make sure that I lock it at night so it's still there. That need for a car is extended by taking care of it. The need for my clothes to be usable and make me look half presentable on at least some occasions requires care. But the care that we often neglect the most is the care of ourselves. So to support that through, to extend that for as long as possible, we need to take care as well. So one area that we need to think about as well is that of making assumptions. We assume about ourselves and we assume about other people maybe that everything's okay. We naturally make those assumptions based on our own experiences. It's an evolutionary process that we've assumed. And it's these assumptions that can lead to thinking that things are going to be all right. Maybe ignoring that instinct there from the gazelle. Okay. And it is an efficient way of processing our world. We have so many bits of information. I think it's something like 40,000 pieces of information come to our brain within a second, and we can process about 10 or 20. A lot of information has come to our brain from around us, from our senses, from inside our body. So making assumptions about things, assuming that things will be okay, is very efficient. You don't have to dedicate time to it, you don't have to dedicate brain power to it. So they're based on our perspective. And again, those different life experiences can cause different assumptions. Someone who has not been through a traumatic incident may not understand what that would be like. They may not think of how that can actually rule that person into thinking a certain way or act in a certain way. just the same as the person who hasn't been through it will not necessarily have the same trauma. They may have different traumas as well. Again, if we think back to our needs and our experiences, what's important to us, we've all gone through those different life experiences, so it's important to understand that rather than assuming things are all right for ourselves or for other people, it's taking that time to have those conversations. These are some great points just to within a communication of, you know, we've been looking through the over the years of different things to have there within communication. Listening, just listening to someone. We all know, we've seen it on Facebook, we've seen it on television, we've seen it in courses, that listening to someone, actually listening, not just waiting for your turn to talk, but listening is really important, is really powerful. Again, consider that non-verbal communication. What is the person saying by not saying anything at all? What's going on? Why is that person maybe sitting quietly? Are they just having a quiet day? Is there something else going on? Is their mannerisms, their behavior, their expression, are they saying something that the words aren't? Asking questions is a really good way of validating someone within communication. If you're asking questions, you're interested, you're showing you're listening, you're showing you're being present, because you want to know. What you say matters to me because I'm asking you. It's great to be clear, okay? As much as I'm not very good at it sometimes, I know that there's a lot of benefit in being clear, highlighting where there's issues, clarifying and summarizing where you need to actually find out what the person is saying. Where you can have empathy, take that time. Think back to the walking in the miles, the previous quote there from Elvis there, walking a mile in the other person's shoes. What does it feel like to be that person? We're only going to find that by asking those questions, by getting that information there as well. Providing feedback is really important, whether it's feedback in terms of giving understanding of your own thought processes, or actually giving feedback just to say, I've understood what you've said when I've asked you those questions. It helps us develop those trust as well. And I think probably for everyone, the most important thing, and we understand this, is being present. If you're looking at your computer or you're looking at your phone and someone is talking to you, are you present for them? If it's the other way around, you're trying to talk to someone and they've got their phone in their hand, even though they say they can hear you or that they're listening, are they present? Probably not. So remember those things as we go through. We want to be able to identify compassion fatigue just as well as identify issues with well-being by being there, and we can do that the best by having those conversations. I've added some links for the organisational support, and again, these are more focused on well-being as a whole rather than just on compassion fatigue, although there is information within these sites and also from elsewhere around that. So the NHS have got the Live Well programme. There's a lot of information around physically looking after yourself as well as mental well-being. Government have issued lots of information and support guidance. There's learning sessions on resilience and well-being through the website that's here. Again, Skills for Care, got to mention Skills for Care. We've got a lot of information there, great sources of support. There are plenty of also other organisations. I've got a link there for an organisation that we work with, which is Mental Health in the Workplace. They have some great learning sessions for teams and for managers, and also support services and consultancy services for supporting mental health in the workplace, hence the name. And then there's also plenty of management consultants and experts around there. Excuse me. I'm surprised I got that far, to be fair.
Well, you've done really well.
There's plenty of experts out there. I will say with us, you know, I am one of many people that work for the Catless Care Group. I've worked all over the place and done it all. And we are there to help. We're always there to give advice and support.
Fantastic.
Okay.
Liam, that was you've done very, very well. Thank you so much. And in fact, thank you to all of our three presenters this morning. I think we've learned something that supports our business in 3 different ways. And so, well, for me, I'm taking away an awful lot of information. We've kind of a few minutes over, but I don't know if anybody's got any sort of questions for anybody. But we will share the slides, and the recording will go on to the Care and Support West website. So I think Liam's disappeared. I don't know.
I'm still here, but yeah, I'm just trying not to cough all down there. Hopefully, you can't catch COVID over the internet. That's what
No, we can't.
No, thank you, Karen. And yeah, if anyone has got any questions, yeah, my email address is in the presentation. You can find us on the internet. And again, it's we're a bunch of jack of all trades. That's the best thing I can say.
All right.
We've done everything all over. So any support you need, do shout.
Well, thank you very much. And you know, the heading on today's presentation was protect your business and support your staff. And I think that's been 3 fantastic presentations, which I really thank you everybody for joining in with us. And I hope you can take something away from today. I'm going to stop the recording before I forget.